We would like to thank the media for your continued support in working with the African Union to increase the focus of the media on developmental journalism, which is key in building a positive African narrative to the world, and we look forward to continued partnership with you. I would now like to invite His Excellency Mr. Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda and the Chairperson of the African Union, to address the media. Your Excellency.
Thank you, Director, Information and Communication. Well, I have been saying all kinds of things for the last 2 days, but to the media, I just want to say we have just concluded a very successful African Union summit with the major decisions that will go a long way in helping the continent achieve its short, medium, long-term goals, prosperity within the framework of what the African Union has set for itself for 2063. There was good participation, both in terms of numbers of heads of state and government that attended, even more so the substance that was discussed to drive our continent forward. And I've been expressing satisfaction and gratitude to the Commission of the African Union and the leadership of that have done everything possible to make this summit a success. So going forward, I'll just take any questions from the press as you wish.
Excellency, would you like to address the meeting?
Bonsoir les amis de la presse. Je voudrais d'abord vous remercier d'avoir accompagné la tenue de ce sommet mené de manière très efficace par son Excellence Président Paul Kagame, qui a eu la confiance de ses pairs pour présider notre organisation cette année. Des décisions majeures et pas des moindres ont été prises, dont notamment 3 concernant les projets phares, la question sur la zone de libre-échange continentale, les projets sur le ciel aérien commun, le transport, et celui sur la libre circulation des personnes et le passeport africain. Je crois que ce sont des pas décisifs dans le sens de l'intégration du continent. Le président l'a relevé, c'est l'un des sommets où le taux de participation au plus haut niveau a été des plus importants. Plus de 40 chefs d'État et de gouvernement ont pris part à ces sommets. Il y a également des avancées significatives dans notre projet de réforme. Je pense que nous commençons l'année avec des résultats très encourageants et j'ai la certitude, avec le leadership connu et reconnu du président Kagame, la mobilisation de la Commission dans son ensemble, avec le soutien des États membres, nous sommes prêts à avancer dans le sens de la mise en œuvre de l'agenda 2063. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now open the floor to questions. Kindly state your name and the media house that you represent and to whom you are addressing your question. So we'll start with this side of the room.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, Mr. Chair. Congratulations, President Kagame. In your own words yesterday, you've said the time has come to deliver for African people. I understand you've been also at the top of the African Union reform. What were the discussions here that will help you and the team you are leading, also the Union itself, to deliver on the reform of the African Union? Excellency Chair, corruption, we have to fight it. That's the spirit now. The time also has come for the Commission to deliver in fighting corruption. What's the strategy here? Thank you very much.
In brief, what has been stressed here is Africa putting together its resources, work together, be more efficient, be more effective, have one voice, support each other, and really, if you look at what the continent has in terms of people and other resources, we should be having enough to take us to the level we want. So those are elements that have been, well, they are there, but not to a sufficient level to take us at the pace we should be moving. So that's commonly shared across African leaders, and we agree. So we are finding ways of therefore obtaining those levels of organization, building of institutions, strengthening them so that they deliver for our people. At the same time, of course, linking with our people and listening to their views and their needs and working with them all together to be able to deliver. I think that seems to be the understanding of all African leaders. And so we are waiting to move forward.
Je crois que le choix de la lutte contre la corruption est un choix extrêmement pertinent. Ces fléaux impactent négativement le développement du continent africain. Ceci est avéré, plusieurs études, dont une commandée par l'Union africaine et menée par le président Thabo Mbeki, a démontré qu'au moins 50 milliards de dollars fuient l'Afrique chaque année. Vous ajoutez à ça les flux irréguliers de fonds, je pense que c'est une question qui s'impose. La lutte contre la corruption est une affaire de l'ensemble des Africains. La société civile, les États, les institutions judiciaires, celles de contrôle. Je crois qu'il faut mener une lutte sans merci. Il y a des instruments au niveau de l'Union africaine, au niveau des différents États. Je crois qu'il faut engager cette bataille de manière méthodique. Le choix porté sur le président Mohamed Bouhari ne procède pas également du hasard. Tout le monde connaît l'honnêteté et la rectitude de cet homme. Il a mené cette bataille, il est en train de la mener au Nigeria. Et donc nous avons souhaité que lui-même soit le champion dans ce domaine. C'est une lutte qu'on doit mener tous. Il n'est pas acceptable que 50 milliards qui dépassent largement de l'aide que nous recevons échappent à ce continent et qui puissent vivre dans cette situation. Donc, en prolongement de la priorité sur la jeunesse, je crois que la lutte contre la corruption est absolument pertinente comme thème.
Fight against corruption is very pertinent and very important.
Nicolas Delaunay pour l'agence France Presse.
The Agence France Presse, Mr. Faki, I just want to talk to you. Yesterday you talked about sanctions against South Sudan. So I want to know whether you have any specific sanctions that you have in mind and who should impose these. And to President Kagame, I just want to know whether you could give us more specific information on the ongoing reforms. You have made some compromise on certain reforms and some have been adopted. Thank you.
Vous savez, la situation au Soudan.
The situation in South Sudan is the most tragic one. There is a constant variable that is death in that country. It is unacceptable that we remain arms folded. That will be not to help people in danger. That is, I myself, immediately after taking office, I went to South Sudan. I went in the interior of the country, outside Juba. And I have noted that all the agreements that were signed have been violated. Even here, in Addis Ababa, you sign an agreement and 24 hours after they have violated the agreement. And in the provisions, we do have provision for sanctions. At a meeting of the PSC, the Commission has been requested to consider the ways and means in order to impose sanctions against those who are an obstruction to peace. I believe everybody is unanimous. We need to act and to act against those who, with impunity, are continuing to massacre very peaceful populations.
Reforms, the most interesting thing from the beginning was that the African leaders decided that it was time to consider these reforms, which would improve how we do business of leaders leading their countries, but together leading our continent. So that was a very important step. But as everyone may be aware, reforms need a lot of change of mindset and change of many things. And change doesn't come so easily. Change requires patience, requires hard work, requires, sometimes taking risk. But the most important thing is change is driven by the need for it. And if the people understand that they need change, then they will be very responsive to the change required. So when we have been looking at, for example, how and where do we get resources from? But we can generate resources from our own countries to begin with, so that if there is any help and assistance from the ones known as partners, then the support will come adding to our own efforts. I think that is very important to understand that Africa isn't going to remain as a place that keeps depending on the kindness of other parts of this world, but rather there are things we can depend so much ourselves on. And the next step being, if therefore we have problems, we mobilize resources, it's how to deploy these resources more efficiently and getting the results that we want. So there are therefore so many things that come into play when you are talking of reforms, and the mention of compromises. There is, as I said, there is patience, there is compromise, but you keep ahead of you the principle and the purpose for which you in the first place you undertook the reforms. So this is what we are going through. So far, many successes registered. If you look at the level of financing, self-financing for the African Union, this has been work in progress, but very good progress as more people also join in, and we all move together. If you look at the level of organization we are beginning to achieve with the African Union Commission, the understanding of leaders of Africa, in driving the reforms. I think we are moving well, but we also understand it will take time. We understand there will be resistance from within and from outside. It happens like that. But I think we are in a good path. We have a good cause. So I think we just need to keep going.
Thank you. I've seen a young lady who's been wanting to ask a question for a while now, so I'll allow one more question.
Catherine from Deutsche Welle. Will we see more binding agreements during your tenure as chairman of the African Union? Because as it stands, we only have 14 countries that are implementing the 0.2 levy. Are we going to see more binding agreements going forward?
Oh, we actually have 21 now. And there are more who are showing interest and just want to understand the best way to implement the 0.2% levy on eligible imports. But that has been taken as a principle, and it's only a matter of time. It's not going, I don't see it as being reversible. Yeah, so we continue. Maybe sometimes even people are not practicing that out of lack of full understanding of really what is at play. They think they will be paying more, or they will, they will be affected one way or the other. But there is explanation going on. There is a team we have. We have a good team that has been helping with this process of reform, and even for the aspect of financing. Now more Africans are getting involved, regions represented. We have a committee of finance ministers. We are, they are making everything so easy to understand, so clear to see, so that people who are stopped by any lack of clarity as to what the issues are can also join. So there is a positive outlook for that process.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a very long day, and if you will allow our principals to take leave, I would advise for anybody who has additional questions for the chairpersons to kindly address them to the spokesperson of the African Union, Ms. Eba
Give
Kagame.
them 2 or 3.
You want 2 more questions?
We can,
okay. This side of the room. So.
Microphone, please.
Hello, thank you. My name is Raphael from Agence France Presse. Just checking, is there any update on the situation in DRC?
Say again, there was an echo.
Is there an update on the situation in DRC? Did you guys discuss anything with regards to the current situation in DRC?
Not that I know of anything specific or different from what I know are efforts going on by African leaders and institutions working together with the United Nations, and of course working with the DRC itself to see how best to manage the problem. Okay. And the reason here I said you can have more questions is so that it even helps us elaborate more on some of these things happening. We can burn more calories doing that.
Mr. President, welcome to Ethiopia. My name is Samuel Getachew. I'm from The Reporter. My question is for the chairman. There was a very serious allegation made in Le Monde magazine today, questioning the building of this building, accusing them of the Chinese government having spyware in so many places. Have you looked at the report, and do you have any comment? And to the president, you had an audience with the President of the United States. Can you give us the highlights, please? Thank you.
I don't know anything about this report, but in any case, I don't think there's anything done here that we would not like people to know. So if the Chinese want to hear what we are saying or read the documents we are writing, or anybody, I don't think spying is a specialty of only the Chinese. I think we have spies all over the place in this world, but I would not have been worried about being spied on in this building. I would only have wished that actually Africa, if we had got acted together much earlier on, we should have been able to build our own building. That would have been my own concern. But even then, if you bring those other builders, even if it is your money, they can still spy on you. So I don't know what the meaning of that in Le Monde is all about, but whether it was just to put the Chinese in a bad light for having built this for us. But yeah, I wish we had built this building ourselves. That is the main thing. For spying, in fact, some of us say things we want people to hear, or we do things we want people to know. So if anyone wants to hold us accountable for what we are doing or saying, and there are not many things I know out there people do just for wrong intentions. What did you say? The next part?
The highlights of your audience with the president.
Yes, I met. You see, let me say this. Well, I met the President of the United States. For me, that is very important. But the President of the United States is Trump. President Trump. You may have your views or whatever about Trump, that's okay, it's your right. But for me, the most value is to meet the President of the United States. When the United States decided to give us Trump as their president, we deal with that President of the United States. It's not an issue of whether you appreciate him for this or for that or for the other. It's a job he's doing for his country. It's a job I'm doing for my country, but also this time I was doing the job for the continent. And if you look at what was emphasized in our discussion, was the importance of collaboration, of a good relationship between United States and Africa. That's what I insisted on, and that's what I found President Trump was open to, and in fact, the chairperson of the African Union Commission will tell you more. He knows this. He wrote, President Trump wrote a letter to the African Union Commission, and through the chairperson, addressing the heads of state of Africa, wishing them every success, and stating how he's ready to collaborate with Africa and African leaders. So that is really what went on in our discussion.
Je voudrais juste ajouter concernant moi, mes bureaux sont.
I just wanted to add. I keep saying every day, I haven't seen any signs of spying in this building. And I think our relations with China is excellent. And any administration worthy of the name, you don't need to come in here to spy on what we're doing. So without being an expert in espionage or spying, it happens everywhere. So we cannot actually base our judgment on what is being said out there. And like His Excellency the President said, we received the correspondence on the 25th of January from President Trump, addressed to myself and to all the heads of state and government, in which correspondence Trump is wishing us excellent success in our summit. And so we've taken due note of that. Thank you.
محمد طه توكل من الجزيرة.
محمد طه توكل from Al-Jazeera. Excellency, the the Executive Council denounced the position of Trump. Are you going back on your position? And did Trump apologize to you in his letter? The second question is about African migrants in Libya and Jerusalem. I see that there is a change with regard to the position made by the Executive Council on denouncing the statements about Africa. Thank you.
De toutes les façons, si vous avez...
In any case, if you did follow the discussions at the Executive Council, especially at the beginning, I said loud and clear, I expressed loud and clear the position of the African Union, and I even used the term that I had used in the communique in relation to what President Trump had said. After having received the correspondence before, I want to say that we've taken due note of that correspondence addressed to us. Now, concerning migrants, the situation of migrants, we did agree after the summit between the European Union and African Union in Abidjan, we put in place a working group comprising the African Union and the European Union and the United Nations through the IOM, and I can assure you that over 13,000 migrants have been repatriated since then, and the process is still ongoing. These are migrants who were held in centers and who were being tortured inhumanely, and most of them have been repatriated voluntarily back to Africa, and the process is still continuing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Omar Radi for Spanish News Agency. As was indicated by the chairperson of the African Union Commission at the opening of this summit, there is a decline in multilateralism recently, and that seems to be the concern of many African leaders. President Kagame, how do you suggest the African continent react to this global trend as it will affect, as the status of the international community seems to be threatened?
The simple answer for me is more cooperation between and among African countries. Whatever is happening out there that will affect us inevitably, the best response is for us to work together even more than ever before. Because that one we have that within our means to achieve. But we do not have the means to achieve what others will decide to do. Whether it affects us or not, if they decide to do that, and as you rightly said, that seems to be a global trend. But for us, our response should be to want to work together among ourselves, and to keep arguing with the rest of the world that still there is a need for people to work together. Globalization was there for that purpose. In fact, it was a product of realization of the interdependence and interconnectedness with the countries and the peoples of this world. That's the reality. You can want to tamper with the reality, do it your own way, but it remains a reality. So there are weaknesses that will affect us if things continue the way we do business, but we can step that up, and that will help us deal with the external problems that affect us. So when it comes to debates about it in the international forums, we will ably argue that. But what matters is so much what we do and do with each other and among ourselves than what we keep debating with others outside of our continent.
Are there any more questions? Chris?
Hi, I'm Chris Stein from AFP. I have a question for Chairperson Faki. I remember in November you announced that the AU would be helping get 20,000 migrants out of Libya. But in your opening speech you mentioned that you managed to get out 12,000. What are some of the difficulties you've encountered in finishing that job? And once you get the 20,000 out, do you think that will be all the migrants that need to be getting removed from Libya? And what role would the AU play in future evacuations? Thank you.
I said we set up a tripartite working group led by the African Union, and you do recall that I had asked the Commissioner for Social Affairs who traveled to Libya. You know that in Libya, really the situation is particular. I got the ambassadors here in Addis Ababa to send personalities or their consuls out there to identify their nationals so that they can be sent back home. So the process is ongoing. We have over 13,000 refugees, and every day the number keeps climbing. So the majority of those whom we've been able to identify in camps or in centers, especially in around Tripoli, at least in areas under the control of the government, we are doing the best we can. About 2/3 of those refugees have been repatriated. And like I said, the process is ongoing. Among these people, you have refugees. And here I want to thank Rwanda. I want to thank President Kagame, who is ready to host those who are in Libya and who do not want to go back to their own homes, to their countries. You have Rwanda and Niger ready to host those refugees who want to come back to Africa but who do not want to go to their respective countries. So the African Union has taken up its responsibility, and with the support of the United Nations and even the support of other African countries, which have also sent special flights to bring home all or part of their nationals in Libya.
Merci. Bonsoir, messieurs.
Thank you. Good evening, heads of state. I want to ask two questions. What do you think what is your plan to eradicate or to win the fight against corruption in Africa? How can Africa draw or learn from the Chinese experience? What are your expectations on especially with the Sino or the China-Africa relationship? What is your expectations?
To fight corruption, well, first you start by wanting to get rid of corruption. If you have the will and want to do it, then there are ways to do it. One way is through education, through building rule of law, through building institutions, and making sure that the practice of it, of corruption in any place, attracts penalties. Somebody must understand if they get involved in corruption that there will be penalties. It is going to be costly to them more than the benefits they get out of it. So there should not be impunity allowed where people will practice corruption and nothing happens. And this must be both in public and private sectors. But let me clear one thing also there which might be misrepresented. Much as we are talking about corruption and wanting to fight it, and we must, it's a bad thing, it has gone too far, it has cost us a lot, but please understand that corruption is not an African thing. It's a global problem. Let no one think that corruption was born here and lives here and will die here. No. So we have to look at this. So in fact, as we look, when I was talking about penalties should go to those who practice corruption, irrespective of color or where they come from. And as we have seen also corruption taking place in many parts of the world, we have found sometimes people from different parts of the world have colluded and are in it together. I just wanted to make that clear. But so fighting corruption is possible when people intend to do that and have the drive to do it. So on the side of China, it's not so much of learning. We have been learning so much from everybody for too long. In fact, we are full of lessons we have learned. I think what we need to do is to try and do things for ourselves as well. But do things for ourselves through cooperation, working with the people. China, through China cooperation, some countries have benefited having means that they did not have before, or that nobody else was providing, whether it is in the area of building infrastructure. They have done things in the areas of agriculture, in health, education, trade. So from the lessons we have learned, the most important thing is what and how. You know, people talk about Africa coming, China coming to Africa and helping itself and taking everything for nothing. And if that is true, the first party to blame is not China. It is actually Africa. Because if you are there and everybody comes to you and helps themselves without you knowing what you want or what to do, it's mainly number one, it's your problem. So it's not the problem necessarily, or the only person to blame is not the other one who is exploiting you, but the exploited, the one being exploited. If you are so willing to be exploited, I think you are the number one problem. So that needs to be sorted out.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.